Today's deck jumped to the front of the line thanks to today's patron. Priority deck requests are one of the many perks you get by becoming a patron. Consider supporting the channel today.
Welcome back to today's build. I'll be your guide to this wonderful game we all love. Let's get started.
Today's deck is a real thriller. His name is Wilhelt the Rotcleaver, and this is Pawns of the Dead.
Hang around to the end of the video to learn more about a giveaway.
Wilhelt is a 3/3 zombie for 4 mana that makes a decayed zombie whenever a non-decayed zombie of ours dies, and can sacrifice a zombie to draw a card once on our end step. As creature tribal decks go, this is an unusual one. Ordinarily, we'd want to engage in combat either by going wide and making a lot of tokens, or going tall with evasion, but zombie tokens aren't as easy to make as, say, human tokens, and not as large as dragons. So going wide or tall means a fight against gravity that won't be very profitable. Furthermore, decayed creatures only last for one combat phase and can't block, so they're not very useful in combat at all unless we can find a way to make a swarm of them all at once. But even stranger is when we compare this to an actual zombie tribal deck like Verena Lich Queen. This is a commander that really wants you to attack with your zombies, but decayed creatures aren't good at attacking and aren't good at blocking. The only thing they have left to be good at is dying, which they are very good at. With that thought, let's reframe how we think about this deck. Instead of being a creature tribal deck, it's probably better to think of this as a very narrow aristocrats deck. Just like on Hello, Braids, and Wilson, our deck is doing the most when our creatures are not just dying, but when their deaths serve a purpose. So we'll focus on playing zombies that either feed our critical mass, help us dig through the deck for key pieces, or otherwise interact with the board when they die. First, Rooftop Storm and Necroduality help our zombie spells, but are not themselves zombies. What's more, apart from the clunky mana costs, Wilhelt doesn't care about casting zombies, only controlling and killing them. At least half of the zombies this deck sees are tokens, so these two cards really aren't doing a lot, and seem to be holding the deck back a fair pace. Diregraph Captain, Cemetery Reaper, and Death Baron all provide more power for each of our zombies, but we've already established that our zombies are not very good in combat by default, and are more useful as sacrifices than they are as damage or blockers. While the Captain does have a death trigger, it's very limited in scope, and not especially something we care about. Tomb Tyrant, Geralf Visionary Stitcher, and Gisa and Geralf are all not zombies, and don't really contribute to the plan of finding zombies or making a large number of zombies, at least not in any timely fashion. Eternal Skylord is so much better than Geralf, it's a joke. This provides 2 zombies against Geralf's 0. It's a no-brainer. Grey Merchant of Asphodel and Champion of the Perished both care about entering the battlefield, but the champion doesn't have any evasion, doesn't have any death triggers, doesn't do anything for us except get chump block. And we're not in the business of flickering or of having a ton of non-token zombies in play for Gary here to get the most value. Not to mention that it doesn't exactly compute with our game plan. Pass. So what's our timeline? Turn 1, we can play Cryptbreaker, Stone of Erech, or Otherworldly Gaze to set up our board, hold down enemy graveyards, and dig through the deck. Turn 2, we can play Dreadhorde Invasion, Lazotep Reaver, or Undead Augur to set up resources for our future turns. We can also play Nightscape Familiar or Dimir Signet for some much-needed ramp. Turn 3, we can play Gleaming Overseer, Vizier the Scorpion, or Bantu's Monument to ramp and help keep us alive since we're not very good at blocking. Turn 4 is our target for Wilhelt, even if we ramped earlier, because he needs disposable zombies on board, which probably requires that extra setup time. Turns 5 and beyond, we can use Diregraph Colossus, Fell Stinger, and Fleshbag Marauder to immediately get a sacrifice, generate advantage, and have enough mana left over for Rotting Rats, Mindleash Ghoul, or Shieldred's Edict to keep our opponents under control. We can also play Baral's Expertise, Siphon Mind, or Siphon Flesh to interact with our opponents while accumulating even more advantage. Next, we'll use Memory Deluge, Factor Fiction, and Distant Melody to refill our hand. We can also play Sidisi, Corpse Augur, or Kindred Discovery to dig through the deck and prepare to close things out. This deck offers a surprising number of ways to win, and there are 4 that I really like. However, the 4th is my favorite and comes courtesy of another patron. With Wilhelt in play and a critical mass of zombies on board, Casting Sakashima's Will and making each of our creatures become copies of Wilhelt will create an explosion of zombies large enough to swarm the board and close out the game. This deck is a little slower to get going, but with its consistent advantage, reliable card draw, and explosive card potential, it offers a very reliable path to the finish. While it could potentially get there before turn 6, it's really not very likely at all, and the reality is that these colors are much more suited to combo lines than they are creature lines. But zombies are one of the more well-supported creature types in Magic, so who knows, maybe one day this deck will crawl even further up the ladder. Special thanks to all my patrons on Patreon. When I started this channel, I wanted to provide insight into deck building decisions with my videos. In practice, what often happens is I talk for 30 minutes about every little nuance of a deck, which is longer than I'm comfortable with posting to YouTube, so a lot of that discussion gets cut for time. Here, patrons can find extended discussions on their favorite decks, in-depth guides on complex game actions, request priority deck techs, and more. So if you enjoy this content, consider becoming a patron today. One of the things my patrons have made possible is a special series of deck techs that I'm really excited to show off to you guys. When I finally get them all uploaded, I'll be giving away a special collection of altars and tokens that I've made, corresponding to each deck on the channel. For example, for the Merfolk Lord of Bones deck, the prize is a set of double-faced altars of the most prominent cards in the deck, whose backsides are set in the constellation frame with updated text to show that they're acting as enchantments now. For every 1,000 views on each video, I'll increase the prize pool for that deck. All you have to do to be eligible to win is be subscribed to the channel. If you like this video, the next decks I'll be looking at can be found here in no particular order, so if you see something you like, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss them, and check out the playlist in the top left for more. Thanks for watching!